Hey there, and welcome back to Natureologies by DIY Nature. This is the second episode in our 4-part series, Understanding the How, What, and Why of Plants. In our last episode, we looked at plant characteristics, the trait that make each plant unique. I highly recommend watching that episode first if you have not done so already. I'll link it in the show notes below. Today, we're digging into how plants grow, from the typical process to some of nature's wildest secrets. Plants are incredibly adaptable, and some have evolved fascinating ways to survive. Be sure to watch till the end to learn about some of nature's amazing oddities. Let's dig in. Most plants follow a life cycle that starts as a seed and then grows into a young plant and then matures and eventually reproduces. Understanding each of these stages gives us a better sense of how to support plants at each point in their life cycle. But as we go through, keep an eye out for some of nature's fascinating twists on the standard cycle. The life of a plant begins as a seed. For most seeds to germinate, they need water, warmth, and oxygen. Once a seed has absorbed enough water, it swells and cracks open, allowing the tiny root and shoot inside to start growing. Though some seeds have built-in waiting mechanisms that require very specific conditions to germinate. For example, jack pine, although easily killed by fire, has developed serotinous cones. To boil that down, intense heat is required to explode their seed cones, so water and oxygen can leak in and begin the growth process. This adaptation ensures the survival of jack pine after a wildfire, but without a fire to enable the cones to open, jack pine can be replaced by other species. The process of seed growth begins with the seed coat breaking open. The first part to emerge is the radicle, or primary root, which anchors the plant and begins absorbing nutrients and water from the soil. Shortly after, the plumule, or the young shoot, begins to grow upward, reaching for sunlight. Plants know to grow roots down and stems up due to a process called gravitropism, which is their response to gravity. Essentially, plants sense gravity and adjust their growth direction accordingly. Each seed is equipped with enough stored nutrients to fuel this early growth, giving the young seedling a head start as it establishes itself in its environment. This initial growth phase sets the plant up for survival, with roots digging deeper for stability and nourishment, while the shoots head toward the light to begin photosynthesis. Some plants do have unusual ways of growing shoots or roots to adapt to their surroundings. Take the walking palm, for instance. It grows new roots above the ground to so-called walk toward the sunlight. And mangroves develop breathing roots that stick out of the water to gather oxygen. Plants are able to do this by sensing their surroundings. Other plants move with the use of tendrils. As the plant grows, its tendrils spread out until they come into contact with something solid. The tip of the tendril winds around that object, and the rest of it then coils up, which pulls the plant toward that support. Feel like experimenting? You can test a plant's sense of touch by growing one that produces tendrils. Peas, cucumbers, and pumpkins are good plants to use. If you stroke a young tendril's tip with a pencil, you can see it start to bend. This response is called Haptotropism. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration are two key processes that help plants grow by working together to produce and use energy. In photosynthesis, plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to make glucose, a type of sugar. They also make oxygen, which is obviously what we breathe. This happens in the chloroplasts, which are parts of the plant cell containing chlorophyll, the green pigment in the plants. The glucose made in photosynthesis is like stored energy that the plant can use later. Then, in order to break down the glucose into a usable form of energy, cellular respiration takes place with water and carbon dioxide being released through small holes in the leaves called stomata. Deciduous trees rely heavily on the cellular respiration process during the winter months when they lack the leaves for photosynthesis. The energy gained from photosynthesis and transformed by cellular respiration fuels everything plants do, from taking in nutrients to building new cells and growing. On a side note, cellular respiration is considered the opposite of photosynthesis in the carbon cycle, as photosynthesis removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere while respiration adds it back, but mostly into the surrounding soil. When a plant reaches maturity, it's ready to reproduce. Flowers, fruit, and seeds allow plants to create the next generation, but not all plants reproduce the same way. Some plants, like many flowers and fruit-bearing plants, rely on pollinators, such as bees, moths, or even the wind. This helps transfer the pollen from one flower to another, which fertilizes the plant and allows it to produce seeds. Other plants, like ferns and mosses, reproduce through spores instead of seeds, releasing tiny, dust-like particles that can grow into new plants under the right conditions. Some plants, like strawberries or certain grasses, spread through runners, long stems that grow horizontally to produce new plants at their tips. If the runners grow above ground and has leaves that can photosynthesize, it's called a stolon. If the runner grows underground, such as this one, oh, it broke. Such as this one here, it's called a rhizome. This variety of reproductive method allows the plant to thrive in diverse environments and ensures the spread of new growth, but many become invasive, such as this mugwort that I've been battling for months now. As we've been learning, nature has some incredible oddities, such as the carnivorous plant. Venus flytraps rely on, you got it, touch, to know when they should close on a victim. But did you know that they have learned to count in order to avoid false positives? To ensure that they are capturing a live, wiggling insect, traps only shut after 2 taps and will only begin digesting prey after 3 or more distinct touches. Another of nature's wild oddities is the strangler, a parasitic plant belonging to the morning glory family known as the Dodder vine. This plant locates its prey by scent. Unable to produce its own food, the Dodder vine must live entirely off a host plant. In a series of experiments, researchers discovered that in order to find a host plant from which to drain nutrients, the parasitic plant sniffs out the chemical scents released by leaves of nearby plants. When odor from a tomato plant are wafted towards the vine, this chemical cue prompts the plant to send a tendril snaking towards the source. This vampiric tendril will wrap around its victim before extracting the goodness from within. Today, we explored the fascinating process of plant growth, from typical seeds to unique adaptations and incredible oddities of nature. Plants have mastered so many survival strategies, whether it's timing their sprouting to fires, walking toward the light, or luring insects in for food. Thank you so much for watching. Next up in this 4-part series, we'll dig into the why behind plants, their role in ecosystems, and why they're essential for life here on Earth. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss it. Have any suggestions or requests for future videos? Drop them in the comments below. I'm excited to dig into new topics and grow this community together.
Until next time, I'm Amanda Ross, and this is Naturologies by DIY Nature.